Thank you. Supervisor Hayes.
Thank you. I want to point out that I have printed out visuals for the County Board Supervisors, and there are some extra copies for the audience. I'm going to be going through some complicated things, and it'll be a little easier to follow along with that handout. First, I want to thank everyone who has worked super hard on this jail project. Sheriff Waldschmidt, gosh, where do I even start? You keep our community safe, and for years you have been working on improving the jail facility and operation. You carry a very large burden for our county, and I am eternally grateful for all that you do and what your dedicated staff also does for our county. I know I will always get a prompt and gracious answer to my questions. I also want to thank Finance Director Tammy Pino. She spends all kinds of time with me. She did again today. We had another session. Additionally, I want to thank our county executive, our county board chair, and all of my fellow supervisors. I also want to thank all of the people who are here tonight. You are an important part of this process. It is fantastic that you will take your time on a cold winter night and show up, especially when you are not given the opportunity to speak. I do not agree with that, but it is the policy of the board. To my comments, I had hopes that we would be further along and know more. I'm going to start with that $14 million number. I agree with everything that Supervisor Griffith has said. On the first page of my handout, you can see a chart. This chart was produced by the Samuels Group. The chart was produced for the ad hoc committee meeting. The chart was produced by the experts that we hired to answer especially the cost question. I know I was shocked when I first saw that chart. Right over on the far right side, we have the Justice Center column, and the number there is $392 million. Okay, so I rounded it up, and I started talking about $400 million. When you are talking about such large numbers, it's just as easy and it's close enough. This chart was presented to the county board at the only public meeting that the county board has had on this project. So let's move on. At the February 2025 county board meeting, I presented information on how Fond du Lac County would compare to other counties if we took on a $400 million debt. But before we do that, I want to add something new. I want you to go to the next page. It's called Comparison of Fond du Lac County Property Tax Rate with Surrounding Counties. In this, you can see what our property tax rate per $1,000 looks like compared to our surrounding counties. It is $4.75 per thousand. And on the left side, you can see the current rate of the numbers for what citizens paid in 2024. I've tried to stay consistent in the numbers, so many of these are for 2023, 2024. My numbers come straight from the Green Book, which is produced for us by Forward Analytics. We all receive it every year. It's an excellent source of information. And you can see that we are higher than every other county, surrounding county except for Green Lake. On the right side, I've added in the $1.61 extra that we would pay for a $400 million debt to be added on. That number, $1.61, came from the chart on the previous page that was given to us by the Samuels Group. If we take on a $400 million debt, we will be higher than all of the rest of our surrounding counties, and we will be 2 times that of Outagamie County and 4 times that of Washington County. In all of my charts, I've added a black line with a star. That is the level if the debt is $200 million. So I want you to take a good look at that chart and the comparison and see where we are with our surrounding counties. Let's go on to the next one. The next one I spoke about before in February. I gave it to you in a chart format after the meeting. I've turned it into a graph. This chart shows you the percent used of our allowable debt for every county in Wisconsin. The amount of bonding that a county can do is limited by the state. We're limited to 5% of our equalized value, which is the value of all the property in the county. Fond du Lac County has a limit of, I think Tammy said today, it is $660 million, $650. So let's just say it's about $600 million. That's a lot of money. We are at about $60 million, 50, okay, well, the numbers, that's the numbers today. These are the numbers from 2023. You can see on the chart that we are using about 11% of our allowable debt. It's a really important metric. If you look off to the right, you can see a county that has the highest, that's Trempealeau, with 45%. And then you can see down on the other side, there are counties that do not have any debt. If we add a debt of $400 million, you can see what will happen to the amount of allowable debt we have used. That percentage is 83%. It is far higher than Trempealeau County. It's an unimaginable amount. If you look at the amount for the $200 million debt, it's still high. It's right about where Trempealeau County is. I want to move on to the next chart. The next chart is the per capita debt for every county in the state of Wisconsin. Per capita debt is the amount of debt you have for each person that lives in your county. Here you can see we are at about $600. The highest county, poor Trempealeau County, is at about $2,400. It's a very useful measure. On the bottom, you can see if we add a $400 million debt, we would be in the highest in the state at just over $4,600 per citizen. That number is almost 2 times higher than the highest county in the state. If we borrow $200 million, it only takes us down to about $3,500, and we are still more than $1,000 over the next highest county. You have heard this from me back in February, and I'm going to say it again today. We have to decide what we can afford. So I've been doing a little bit of reading, an awful lot of watching videos, and on the next page, I'm going to tell you how I think we should answer that question. I've been following Portage County, which is in the process of a project just like this, and they answered that question with a debt management policy. This page has all kinds of information for you about a debt management policy. I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to direct you to the 2 arrows that show you what they did in their policy that refers to what we just talked about in those 2 charts about the debt, per capita debt, and the total overall percentage of allowable debt. They decided for their direct net debt per capita that they are going to set that at a maximum of $2,000 or an amount no greater than any other county of similar size and credit rating. The second thing they decided was that the maximum financial limit on this of their percent of total usage of their overall borrowing capacity would be 30%. I will be asking the chair of the Finance Committee to put discussion of the development of a debt management policy on the agenda of their first meeting in January 2026. So let's go to the next page. This is why it matters. And again, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but this is information from Portage County about how the rating agencies decide on what you're going to pay for your interest rate. And one of those parameters is debt and liabilities. The red arrow takes you from that to show you the breakdown of it. And then in there, one of the things is the net debt per capita. And you can see in those numbers that we are now at number 2. Number 1 is the best rating you can get. Number 6, if we go to $4,600 per capita, we're going to have the worst possible rating. So let's go to the next page. And this is the final page. Why did I include a $200 million number as a reference? Portage County is going through a very similar process. They solved their situation when the city decided to move out of the shared building that they had, freeing up the space for them to do their court expansion. The county board moved forward and decided to build a new jail with a capacity of 196 adults and no juveniles on a site that is outside of the city. This project also includes what is called the Law Enforcement Center, which is their sheriff's department. They have firm costs in Portage County. $160 million for the jail law enforcement center and $55 million for the county government center remodel. They're doing it in 2 phases. They're doing the jail facility first because they have, and they're doing some security work on their shared building. They have to allow for their city to move out, and then they're going to have another $50 million. In addition, it's complicated how you do this. You don't bond for the money all at once. And on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see what their debt management policy looks like. I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm going to talk about that this is a total of $215 million. So we have a real example of what potential costs could be. So where am I? I'm frustrated, and frankly, I'm a bit angry. I expected much more to happen in 2025. I will be voting no on this resolution. We cannot move forward without deciding what we can afford. We have to bring in more people. We have to have open, frank discussions with our police chiefs, our municipalities, our judges, our DAs, our public defenders, our lawyers in Fond du Lac. We must talk with our businesses, and most of all, we need to talk to our citizens. After all, it's their money. So far, this process has been deeply flawed, and I'm willing to work very hard in 2026 to change all of that, and I hope all of you will join me.
Please, this isn't a show here. Keep your applause to yourself, if you don't mind. Supervisor Leering?